My name is Fran Bills, and my pronouns are she and her. I'm your worship leader this week. Welcome to this morning, this day, and this opportunity to get together in community, which is a time of joy, comfort, and sometimes challenges. This Unitarian Universalist congregation is a place where we come to learn more about being human. We're not here because we've figured out life's questions or because we think we've got it right. We come here to learn more about being in relationship together, how to listen, how to forgive, how to be vulnerable, and how to create trust and compassion in one another.
What is it that calls you here? That calls you onward, that calls you inward, that leads you homeward? What is it that gives you the power to make that change, to ask that question, to take that journey? What is it that says you have done well, that asks you to learn more, that brings you stillness? What is it that holds you up in hard times? It is relationship, the beating heart of our faith. It begins when we share this hour, our truths, this air, our hearts. Come, let us worship together. If you were here last week, you heard me talking about how I set up this month to take some risks and to try some new things. The theme of the month, the Soul Matters theme of the month, is resistance. I think that trying new things is a form of resistance. I think asking questions is absolutely a form of resistance. So last week I went without a script. This week I'm turning around and I want to hear your questions. So if you didn't put in a question before the service started, now is your chance. I'm going to ask the ushers to come forward, and if you've got your question ready, fold it up, we're going to try to pass everything to the middle and get all the questions put into the box here. So we're going to take a couple of minutes to do that. If the box goes by and your question isn't in the box yet, go nice and slow. We're going to take some time to do this. I have a couple of things to say before we do so. Take your time if you haven't already posted your question. One thing to know is that there are about 100 people in the room, maybe 80 people in the room, some people online, and we'll have about 15 minutes, and I can go on for a long time, so we won't get to every question, but I will keep all of your questions, and they will inform maybe a future sermon. If it's something specific, if you put your name on it, I'll try to follow up with you. I'll try to put some answers in the newsletter article maybe in the future. So I'll try to make sure that your questions are certainly done. What I wanted to say before the questions all come in is questioning is a core tenet of this faith tradition. It's where this faith tradition comes from. And many of you have heard me say this before, but Unitarianism and Universalism were Protestant traditions, and Protestant comes from protest. All of the Protestant traditions were protests of one or another tenet of Roman Catholicism. So the Methodists went one way, asked one set of questions, the Lutherans went another way, the Unitarian question was Trinity versus unified one God. Is God God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, or is there just one God that is all? The Universalists, their question, the thing that they questioned was, how could there be a God that would randomly assign anybody to eternal damnation? How could that God be all good if that's what they did? So that was where the universal love. So we come from a faith tradition, and I always think of the Unitarians and the Universalists as the ones that question so much they question them right out of faith in a lot of different things. I think questioning is a core, I don't want to say think, I know that questioning is a core tenet of this faith tradition. Questioning authority, questioning what is believed. We all used to believe the world was flat, and people asked questions. We used to believe we couldn't fly, and people kept asking questions. We are a questioning people. So I think it's important every once in a while to see what's on people's minds, for me to see what questions you have. Another thing is, we're told in this country not to question authority. And I think that is a dangerous precedent. I want you to question me. I want you to, if I say something, as I said for the children, I am not the holder of all answers. There are 100 brains in this community, and if you multiply that together, it is larger than the largest supercomputer by a factor of 1,000,000. I mean, like, there is so much potential for understanding in this room. Do not take anything that I say as gospel. I may have learned a few things. I may have had some experiences. You come from a different place. You have had different experiences. Don't take anything that I say. I will give you my answer, and you'll know sort of maybe what my beliefs are a little bit, and that can maybe help you interpret. But this faith tradition challenges you to constantly question and find your answers, and work together to find collective answers. Yeah, I think that's it. Do you want to bring those questions forward? Let's see what we got. We got some that were put in before, and I'll start with those so that Fran can help me start to do some of these. But I like this first question here, and this will sort of begin the process of helping you understand how I see the world, which is important to know about your minister. So the question, there's a two-part question. First part is, do you believe in miracles? And the second question is, how do you define a miracle? And the answer to the first question is, oh my gosh, yes, I do believe in miracles. As far as science knows, there was an explosion 13 billion years ago, and that led to me standing up here with a brain that can begin to try to understand how that could possibly happen, how I fit into that. I can express what I see, I can express what I hear. How can that not be a miracle? I mean, my goodness, it's miraculous that we exist and that this planet exists and that it all balances out so that we can live and we can feed ourselves and we can continue on. I think that is the definition of a miracle in my book. And then, how do you define a miracle? For me, a big piece of it, and there's questions in here about, do you believe in God, et cetera, et cetera. I definitely have a grounding in humanism and science, and that's kind of the mentality I was raised with. The beautiful thing I think about science is that science will never tell you it knows all the answers. Science continually questions itself so that it can learn more and more and more. Science has found answers all the way down to the atomic level between the atoms, all the way up to the beginning of the universe out in places that we can't even comprehend. They have all kinds of answers of how all that stuff works, and they still don't know all the answers, and they know that they still don't know all the answers. And they're beginning to realize that all these things which feel solid to us are really just nothing more than space and energy. We are all energy. And so, since there are things that we can't really see, and there are parts of the universe that we can't yet understand, to me, because it is all energy and energy transforms and it always changes shape, I think that some of the things, like when we do joys and concerns, if we put our intentions and we put our energy, I think that is kind of prayer, right? If we put our energy towards trying to think about good things for people, I think that impacts the energy. And I think energy works in ways that we can't understand, and so that's where I hold on to miracles, is that which we can't yet understand, and to realize that we are all just energy, and energy moves and flows, and we have power over that. So that's my answer to that. What UU value do you hold closest? I love that they put love at the center of our UU values. One of the things about being human, if I get any questions that sort of go to meaning, I'm always reminded that humans are the only creatures that, as far as we know, can assign meaning to something. Things happen, you drop a rock, it falls to the ground, that's kind of just how it works. A bird drops a seed, it recognizes that it falls, it just goes and gets the seed and comes back. It doesn't say, oh my sadness, my seed fell out of my tree, the world is ending. We humans have this beautiful gift and also this burden that we can add meaning to things. And so I think love is one of those human-created meanings that is so central to keeping us safe and allowing us to continue to thrive. I think having love at the center of our faith is such a powerful force. I know that there was a lot of pushback from a lot of the humanist congregations. They say, well, love is squishy. How can that be the center of our faith? And I say, well, what's the opposite of love? I don't think we want the opposite of love at the center of our faith tradition. So I think love is the one that I hold closest. And then the next question on this piece of paper is your job really hard? It can be. One of the questions I've gotten in the past is, what is this? Why do you wear a stole? What does that symbolize? And I can't tell you, I'm sure somebody could look up and tell you the history of where the stole came from, but the meaning that was given to me as to what is the stole when you are granted a stole, what does that mean? And the metaphor is that it is like a yoke. You know, you put a yoke on a set of oxen to pull the plow, right? To carry the weight of it. To me, the metaphor of the stole is that it is to carry the weight. It is to accept the responsibility of carrying the weight. We have opportunity to accompany people through the hardest of their days, through the hardest of their lives. Have the opportunity to be right in the middle of conflicts that people have in relationships in the congregation. And some days my job is really hard. Life is hard for everybody. Each of us has our own burdens that we have to carry. For me, I think my training tells me that the way to strengthen myself to be able to hold those things is to, and this is, I think, a lesson for all of us, prioritize, don't be afraid to prioritize ultimate self-care. Care for yourself first. Make sure that you are grounded. Make sure that you don't take on more than you can hold. Make sure if you are feeling overwhelmed that you pull back a little bit and you catch your breath and you get to a place where you are calm. Because we don't do ourselves any good if we are overwhelmed and trying to help because we think we're supposed to help, and then we get ourselves to a place where we are depleted and then we get sick. So I think, yes, my job is hard. I think life can be hard. And I think the lesson for all of us is self-care, spiritual practices. Find the things that ground you and strengthen you and help to keep you balanced. And that's how we all... And my job gets easier the more that you all take care of yourselves, the better you are at able to take care of the friends around you. The community takes care of itself. I know we had a person last week in Joys and Concerns that said, I got sick, and all the people just came out of the woodwork and helped me. And y'all make my job easier. So that's what I think about that. What would you bring to a service if you could do anything that's legal? I think the thing that I would bring generically, I've gone to a lot of black churches, and the feeling that I get when I am part of those services is strengthening and uplifting, and there is more of a heart-centered energy. I think Unitarians especially tend to be very head-centric, and we get the hymnal and we just sort of, I don't want to sing too loud. I think if I could bring anything to the service in general, it would be a willingness to just open up and open up and open up and take risks and bring your voices and bring your whole body and embody everything that you bring into this space. We are all hungry for hope right now. And I think that sometimes song and art are ways that we can inspire ourselves and be inspired, and I think we all need that. So if I could bring anything, it would be unlimited energy and a way to ignite your unlimited energy so that it could be shared by all. This one always comes up. It's a good one. Do you believe in a God? I think that sort of goes to my earlier answer. I believe that there are things that humans just, our five senses cannot allow us to know. Again, I said my background is very humanist, very science, very, what can I see, what can I measure? I have a license plate on my truck that says Rev D Fly. And people say, what does that mean? It stands for Reverend Dragonfly. And the reason I have that there is I was in the middle of seminary. My soul was broken wide open because that's what they do. They sort of make you question everything and get completely disoriented and then sort of repack it in a way that you can understand, right? So I'm in the middle of seminary. I'm questioning everything about myself. And I had this experience, and it was a very moving experience. And I came out of this experience And I turned around, I started walking away from the lake where I was at, and this swarm of dragonflies sort of hovered over my head. There was 1,000 of them. I'm like, I've never seen that before. That's interesting. And I pulled out my phone, and I looked up, what is the meaning of dragonflies? And it said, dragonflies in many ancient societies were the symbol of a time for change, the time when new opportunities and new things come. And I said, my science mind cannot make sense of how that worked. And I know that the rationalist among us will say, well, you were just ready for that, you put those two things together and you made that up. Could be well true. But I think the concept of God has existed for humanity forever. And I think it's because there are some things that you just get to and you see and you go, science doesn't have an answer for that. Yes, I know maybe I'm putting these two things together, but I just can't. I'd have to stretch too far to believe that there's a scientific answer for why does somebody that has a terminal illness that the doctors say there's absolutely no hope, sometimes they do come back. I don't know. My answer to the question is, do I believe in God, is I don't know. I think that's another beauty of this faith tradition, is that we leave those kind of questions open for each person to figure out, where does that concept fit into my understanding of my belief system that helps me get through the day and helps me get through life. And I know people in recovery, sometimes a higher power is an answer that helps that. I can't say yes, I can't say no. I say I remain open to the mystery. This is a hard question, which I think it's good. It says, when people talk about forgiving others, especially with the addition that it is for yourself and not for the benefit of others, what are they talking about? If someone hurts me, I don't want to forgive, and I'm not sure I understand how. It's a really good question. I think the ancient wisdom would say that to forgive is never required. To forgive is always the choice of the one that has been hurt. You can choose to forgive. You could choose not to forgive. There's a lot of ancient wisdom that says forgiveness allows you to stop holding on to a hurt a little bit, maybe not completely, certainly not completely. We reviewed the book on repentance and repair last year, which is a brilliant book. It goes back to the Jewish theologian Maimonides, who really thought a lot in around 1000 AD around what is the process of communal repair or individual repair. And the thinking is that the responsibility of repair is on the one that has done the harm. So I think in our society, oh, I screwed up, I'm sorry. The expectation is that the person that you've said sorry to, well, they've said they're sorry, now I have to accept it. I don't think that's the way to go, because that does not honor the hurt that has been created. I think if someone has done harm, the responsibility is on the person that has done harm. And if you look at Maimonides' teachings in that book on repentance and repair, there's a series of things to think about. Why did I take the action that I did? What impact has my action had? Is there anything I can do to repair that harm? So I know this question is from the person. I think if someone has harmed us, especially if it's within this community or within our wider community, something that we can touch, ask for help, ask for support in trying to work through that, to see if there's maybe somebody else that could approach the person that has harmed you and see if they have the capacity to be repentant, and see if there's some work that can be done there. I do believe that if you are able to at least sort of try to get to a sense of forgiveness, that does sometimes relieve us of a burden, but sometimes the hurts are too deep. So that's a powerful question. So thank you for asking it. All right. Did you get let me see more of those. What is one thing you would want to tell someone considering joining the church, this church? come on and tell all your friends about it. Last year, we averaged about 5 kids in RE in the morning. And if a new family walks in, the average of 5 means that sometimes there were none, sometimes there were 2, sometimes there were 3, sometimes there were 5. And families would come in and say, oh, this seems like a really good place. Everybody's super welcoming, but I don't know if there's enough kids. And last week, there was 19 kids. You show up, your kids they see people and they show up. Community is so important, especially in this moment in time. There is a hunger for the safety and the comfort of community, to realize that we don't have to face all these crazy things that are happening in the world alone. And so the one thing I would want to tell someone considering joining this church, this is a loving community that really does its best to hold on to each other, to make repairs if there's an error. I would tell people join this church because life is really hard and nobody should have to face it alone, and this is a good community to face it with. There's a lot of questions in here about, can you stay here and be our minister forever? Right, I know. So for those of you that are new, this is a conversation that's been going on for a while. I can give you an update on that. I was originally called here to be a developmental minister. And a developmental minister is a special kind of minister who is called into a congregation that is typically struggling with a challenge or a series of challenges, often a rift that has happened, maybe split the congregation. We've talked about what was going on in the congregation. There really were no rifts here. The kids graduated, COVID happened, you came back, you're like, where's all the kids, where's all the people, we're broken, we need a developmental minister. So you call the developmental minister. That call is usually 4 to 7 years, enough time to come in, diagnose, see what's going on, and try to put some things in place. This church, the community that built this church, it's an only 26-year-old congregation, 27-year-old congregation. It was a small group of families. They built the church. They bought a church. You've installed solar panels. You've raised all kinds of wonderful, amazing human beings. The elders here, the folks that have been here for a while, know how to run a church. I think the important part of a church is recognizing that this is a community made up of really self-directed, smart, highly educated, often people who have very strong opinions about things. Kind of like our country, a lot of different opinions about how things should be, some more conservative, some more progressive. And how do you figure out what is important to all of those folks and help everybody get where they want to get? So your board and your leadership team and the committees that are working are doing a great job. Coming into my 3rd year, your board has set out a set of really good, achievable goals. They're really putting that stuff out to the committees to say, how can we bring these things to life? How do we strengthen our RE program? How do we align what we're doing in our social action work? How do we make sure our administration of the office is going well? There's so much that is in place. I mean, y'all are doing your stuff. There are very strong reasons why a developmental minister is only supposed to be in place for a set period of time. And that is because if you are in a system that is broken, the minister has to be able to say, hey, this is broken. We have to look at this. What happened here? Let's look back. What mistakes led you to this place? Or what errors or omissions led you to this place where there is such a rift? To be able to say that, sometimes you have to ruffle people. I have to be the minister to everybody. I've certainly ruffled some people. I know that I have. But not much, because there hasn't been much ruffling. But I've certainly ruffled people. And I can tell you that I think there are some people that think I didn't listen to them, that I didn't listen to their concerns, but I guarantee you that I did listen to their concerns. But I have to take everybody's perspective on things. Before I make a decision, I really try to put it back to you, okay, what's the decision the congregation wants? What's the best decision for the congregation? And I take all those pieces of information and I do my best to make the decision. And that sometimes ruffles people's feathers. But that's one of the challenges of being a developmental minister is sometimes you have to speak hard truths. Sometimes you have to make decisions that you know aren't going to be popular. And so that's why it's supposed to be a time-limited thing. because there are going to be things that I do, decisions that I make, that I feel are going to be in the best interest of the broader community that are going to ruffle people. And if I've ruffled people, then sometimes they don't want me to be their minister. In a really toxic situation, to be a truth teller in a situation like that, I become the source of people's angst. A developmental ministry is supposed to have a time-limited space so that I can have the ability to speak those hard truths. And then part of that work is to figure out, what is the minister this congregation needs going forward? That's where we are in the process right now. The rules, which are becoming fluid because the world is changing so quickly. The hard rule has always been developmental ministers only stay for 4 to 7 years so that they can speak hard truths, to help the congregation figure out what it actually needs in a minister once it's healthy and moving forward. And we are entering into that phase now. Your board president and I talked at our last meeting. We're going to have a call with the transitions office and say, is that still a hard, fast rule? There's some call in this congregation to keep me as your minister. I love y'all. It's a good gig. I wouldn't mind staying here as long as things are continuing to go well. But I don't want to say that I can, because we're going to listen to what they have to say. And even if they say, yes, you can stay as their minister, that's not the answer. The next phase, now that we've got all these things in place, now that you have goals, now that things are working well, now that we're going to put a new group in place so that you have a place, if there are things that you're not happy with about me or the board, you're going to start to hear conversations around, what are we calling it? Healthy congregations? Healthy Relations Committee. We're going to be looking for trusted, just people that the congregation feels are like above the fray, that are wise, that can listen to things that are going on. That we're going to put them through a lot of training. There's going to be a system in place so that, I think about this like in terms of democracy. The board is kind of like your legislative branch. I get to be the executive. But you don't really have a judiciary, right? To say like, okay, these are the rules that somebody made up. These are how I've tried to execute those rules. What if you don't think that they made up the right rules? Or what if you think one of the people on the board is toxic? What if you think that I'm not a good minister? This is the place to go so that you can actually feel like you have a place to bring your concerns and questions. So all of this to say, we're putting all of the things in place to create a healthy environment, to have as healthy a community as possible, where people can bring all of their truths, even if they disagree, and there's a place for that stuff to go. And the next step in the process is for me to help you think about, okay, we've got these committees, we've got processes in place where things are going well. What role do you need in a minister? What resources do you have available to actually be able to have a full-time minister? Do you need a full-time minister? Do you look to a minister to do all the things, or could you get by with less of a minister? Do you need a minister that has a different portfolio than me? Is Sunday worship the biggest focus that you have? There are ministers out there that are way better at Sunday morning services than I am. I do okay, like I'm sort of a jack of all trades. There are ministers out there that have stronger social justice portfolios than me. There are ministers out there that have stronger pastoral care skills than I do. The next step is to say, what does this congregation need in its minister? And then to begin to say, okay, who is the right person? And if the region says, yes, you can throw Rev Matt into that mix to consider if that's what you want to do, or no, you're going to have to go, then we'll spend it the next 2 or 3 years really thinking about who is the right minister for where you are in your life cycle and what you need next to continue growing the church. I know I took a lot of time on that one, but I know that's a question a lot of people have, so I wanted to give you as good of an answer as I could. Let myself or any board members know if you have more questions about that. I've been going on for a long time. We have so many questions here. I don't even know. How can we love people who... Maybe 2 more questions? Can we hang for a little more time? Or are we ready to go? No. Cut it. Yeah, there's people that want it to be short. Other people are like, yeah, keep going. The RE people are like, the kids are going crazy. We need to get out of here. All right, I will stop talking. There's so many good questions here. My next service not next week, but the week after, is I'm going to ask y'all some questions. We're going to pass the mic because I want to hear what people's answers are. I will look at these questions and see if there's some questions in here that I think would be good to hear from the community. Thank you for this opportunity. Keep asking questions. Doesn't have to just be here. Ask me questions. Challenge me. Like, tell me what I'm doing wrong. Come to me, please. I don't know that I can fix everything, and I certainly don't have all the answers, but I promise you I'm doing my best. And I promise you that I love this community, and it is an amazing place to be, and I'm grateful to be here. So, thank you. Our closing words are titled Blessed with Questions by Ma Teresa Tet Castillo Gallardo. Some came here to be blessed with answers in a tumultuous world. Let us hope too, however, that many of us have been blessed with questions to direct us with clarity of mind, to steer our logic towards kindness and justice, always. There's one more question I want to answer, which is actually, I think, important. It's about the teenagers, but the question is, how do we help our teenagers understand what we practice when they find it easier to just be given a doctrine, as is in the case of a traditional church? They sometimes feel uncomfortable with a lack of certainty of being told what to believe. My answer to that is, I've always loved the idea that our religious exploration is not religious education. We don't tell people what to believe. Religious exploration is designed to help people to become comfortable listening to different things and then finding what their own answers are. And that's even not comfortable to everybody. Some people really would appreciate just being told what the answers are. Well, the beautiful thing is, our faith is filled with a bunch of people who question and have spent lives trying to figure out what the answers are. And then we come together each year at General Assembly and we come up and we say, what do we collectively think is right? And those are our values. Those values can be the rock solid thing that we teach our kids. Pluralism is important. Listening to lots of different perspectives is important. Justice is important. Generosity is important. If you are generous of spirit, it makes the world better. Those are the bedrock things. We do have bedrock things. And yes, do they have the possibility to slowly change over time? Absolutely they do, because we're Unitarians. But we do come up with some things to say, if we follow this path, this is the path towards where we think a brighter world is. So keep questioning, hold on to what we find to be grounding, and go forth and continue to spread love in the world. Amen.